moving in, we'll start with player points. Now, the objective's pretty obvious. We're trying to, well, sorry, when I say we, this was a program, the CCSP was developed by the AFL Victoria back in 2016-17 with some clear objectives. And with the points, they felt it was something which was important to distribute the good players more evenly rather than all going to one or two clubs, encourage player loyalty, and assist in equalisation. With regard to the individual player points entries, there's a couple of different ways that they will be updated each year. For existing players who were with you last year, their points will roll over. Whatever points they played under last year will roll over. If they were multiple point players, then we will go through and reassess them to see if they qualified for a 1 point reduction for a season of service. So they get a season of service reduction if they played a minimum of 5 games in the seniors or reserves. If they were still eligible for under 18s, though, the games played to warrant a reduction had to be in seniors only and not reserves. I've got a spreadsheet with all the players we've gone through that qualify for the point reduction. We will apply those as we go through. We can't do it until they've registered, but once we do it, once they register, we will make sure that their reduction applies. If you see a player that you think should have got a reduction and hasn't, please make sure you let us know before they play so we can have a look at it for you. If they were 1 point players last year, they'll just roll over. We won't have to do anything with them. They'll just stay as one. New players coming to you, so who are coming obviously from another club, we will assess them. As I say, now that registrations are coming in, we'll be continually monitoring the Play HQ sites. So that'll start ramping up now. I've already done a few, but I'll be ramping up now a bit more to make sure that we identify any new players, assess them according to their playing history on Play HQ, and apply their points accordingly. Been finding when I've been doing them, some players have got multiple records, which is a bit of a problem because some players decide that instead of getting a transfer, they'll just register with a different details, different date of birth, and apart from being annoying, it's a breach of the rules. So we need to make sure that we identify them. So if you're aware of any players with multiple accounts, please let us know so we can adjust it. Because if we don't, then their playing history is disjointed and we don't have it all, and we may, in essence, apply the wrong points. And you can bet your bottom dollar if we apply the wrong points and another club may come to us and say, well, hang on, we know this player played for a Premier Comp last year and you've given them 1 point. So just communication with your players and make sure that their records are accurate. Please make sure you get onto the players. I know it's an annual problem for football managers to make sure that the players register, but you really need to hammer them to get them registered, because if they haven't registered, we can't apply their points. And you don't want to leave it until the last week before the first game for this to happen. Also, if you can get onto the senior coaches and make sure they identify, and this can be at any stage before the season or at the start of the season or early in the season, if they can identify any players they think might be possibilities for a senior game, to let you know so that you can get that through to us to make sure we apply their points. If they're still under 18, we may not have applied their points, so you don't want to leave it to the last minute. Don't leave it until the Thursday or later, just prior to their first senior game, to ask us for the points. We've tried to be as accommodating as we can in previous years, but I certainly can't guarantee that we will be available if you ask for that. And to avoid disappointment, they won't be able to play seniors if they haven't got player points. So just make sure that you're on top of that. The categories for the allocations haven't changed. So they're there, and I won't read through them, but they're in there, and all the documents, the PPSP policy from AFL Vic will be on our website and available for you to look at. And there is a flow chart which you can see later on that is a bit clearer. So once they're assessed, there are additional player point penalties that can be applied if they're transferring from another community club and competing in their immediate former club. So if they're coming from one Bellarine club to another Bellarine club, they'll get an extra point unless they're what's called a development player, which basically means they played more reserves games than seniors in the last 3 years, in which case they'll just be a 2-point player with no additional penalty. Also, if they're coming from a premier comp to a non-premier comp, there's an extra point that will apply. There's a list of the premier comps in the latest slide, which I'll show you. Obviously, GFL being in a premier comp, you don't have to worry about that one because it won't apply to you. If a player has been registered at 3 or more different community clubs in the current or previous 2 seasons, they will get an extra point applied. That doesn't include if they've gone up to the Northern Territory and played on permit, or they've played VFL or Coates League on permit. It's only if they've sort of transferred, which has resulted in them being at 3 clubs in 3 years. Deductions, as I said before, the season of service will be given for the 5 senior reserve games. Where a player qualifies in more than one category based on their playing history in the previous 3 seasons, the category with the highest points will apply. So hence the use of the flow chart. So if in the last 3 years they played 5 VFL games in any one season, they're a 5-pointer regardless of what league they're coming from. If they played at 3 or more community clubs, there will be additional points applied as well. The junior line clubs, there's been a revised rule there that occurred last year, whereby more leagues where clubs don't have junior programs form an alignment or an MOU with another club. So it probably doesn't apply to us too much, except we've got Geelong West, who have got the multiple senior clubs whereby they have an MOU in place so that there is an agreement with regard to the application of points for those players coming out as home players if they meet the criteria. Also with Northern Stars and Corio and North Shore. Premier comps, the Metro Leagues, the VAFA Premier Division, and in each region, the AFL Vic have identified a league within each region that is classified as a Premier League. In our region, of course, it's the Geelong Footy League. This is a flow chart. I won't read through it, but it is pretty good because it gives you a quick check. Having said all that I've said so far, you've got all these things which will help you identify and assess players that you're looking at potentially getting. If you're not sure, you're welcome to flick their details through to me and I can try and check them. The unfortunate thing is now with Play HQ, if they haven't played in our region before, I can't see their playing history until they register with you or until they've transferred to you. Can't see the records for people outside the area unless at some stage they played with us. Reassessment requests. So if you believe that the assessment is not in line with the policy or doesn't meet the guidelines within our local bylaws, you can make application. There is a form which will be online as well that you can use for individual player reassessment. You can lodge that. You need to lodge that within 7 days of the player points being allocated, but no later than 3 days before the player's first home game or player's first home and away game with that club. They need, if you've got a genuine concern, it needs to be addressed before they play. All applications will be considered by the player points panel, and we'll let you know as soon as we can, hopefully by 5 p.m. on the same day. The player points panel will meet every Wednesday. So you would need to have, if you're looking for a player to play on Saturday, you'd need to have their application in before 9 a.m. on that Wednesday so that it can be looked at by the player points panel, and they can judge whether or not the reassessment is successful. Once a player has played in the senior team, there won't be any retrospective requests. So it's not a matter of waiting and saying, oh, shit, I think that's unfair, or, you've got to have a genuine reason and identify it early. Decisions of the player points made by a majority vote. The local PPSP bylaws will be used, so make sure that you consult those before you make the application. Don't put in long emotional applications. There are obviously a lot of emotive arguments that people can put forward about things, but the player points panel will be assessing purely on the facts and in line with what the laws stipulate. So as I say, AFL Barron will provide written notification to the club within 24 hours of the decision being made. If you're not happy with the reassessment, there's a difference between being not happy, but if you don't believe it meets the local PPSP bylaws parameters, you can lodge an appeal, which will go to the Commission's Operations Committee, and the details of how you apply are in there and will be also in the document that you'll receive. The appeal will be dealt with by that committee, and then there's no further avenue for dispute after that.